Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast, where we explore the mindset, skill set, and habit set of leadership communication. Using these tips, techniques, and tactics, you'll be able to talk like a leader to build better relationships and get more done. Your host is Guy Harris, who has more than 20 years of combined professional and military experience in consulting, coaching, and training in areas like team and interaction dynamics, communication strategies and tactics, as well as emotional intelligence. Take it away, Guy.
Hi, this is Guy Harris. Welcome to Talk Like a Leader. This week's episode is titled, Focus on Similarities More Than on Differences. I've noticed that in conversation with people when we're addressing business goals, organizational goals, an organization could include family as a point of conversation. It's easy to spot the differences we have with other people in terms of opinion, thought, or focus on how to solve a problem, and to get sucked into focusing on the difference rather than in realizing we really share more similarities than differences. And when we get focused on that difference, it can become a bit annoying. It can take over our thinking. It can basically suck us into a downward spiral in the type and nature of conversation we have, where we start discussing and trying to resolve our differences rather than focusing on our shared similarities and shared focus. It's definitely a struggle of mine. It happens frequently with my wife, my daughter, my coworkers. And in those moments where there's a difference of opinion or difference of perspective, difference of approach, it's incredibly tempting to focus on that point of disagreement and to make that a thing rather than to focus on the area of agreement or similarity and build a conversation or productive conversation around our shared interest or our shared focus or our shared desire so that we can make a plan to go forward together and get into a negative downward spiral talking about how we're different and then trying to persuade the other person to our viewpoint and them trying to persuade us to their viewpoint and basically having a conversation that goes nowhere. Now, I want to say that I'm not saying that it is never important to address and resolve some points of difference. What I am saying is that it's not productive to focus on the points of difference. I actually think that noting the differences in perspective or approach or opinion can help you understand how other people see things differently than you do. It can lead you to different and alternative ways of thinking about a problem. As a result, it can give you new ways to solve a problem, maybe even get a faster or better solution. So noting and observing differences as a way to better understand the full scope of a problem or the full scope of a conversation or the full scope of how we can solve the issue that we're trying to address can be helpful. The distinction I'm trying to draw here is the difference between noting a difference or observing it or noticing a difference and focusing on the difference. You see, the problem with focusing on the difference is that divides and separates, whereas focusing on our similarities draws us together. And focusing on differences leads to judgment and criticism of the other person. Focusing on similarities can lead to connection and synergy. Focusing on differences can create frustration and anger, where focusing on similarities can create energy and commitment. So one of the things that I would suggest we think about as we're engaging with other people in all kinds of conversations, it could be a coaching conversation about a business objective. It could be a goal-setting session with a team member. It could be discussion of how to move a project forward. It could be discussion about how to address a customer concern. It could be how to implement some kind of process improvement. It could be any number of things related to the structure, the function, the objectives of the business or organization. And what I'm suggesting is that in these moments when we're trying to solve some potentially thorny problems, if we can focus on what we have in common with a person, rather than how we differ from a person, we'll probably move forward together more effectively in spite of the difference, rather than falling apart because of the difference. Some things you might consider to ask yourself are things like, what is it that I actually have in common with this person? Well, one thing that has nothing to do with business, by the way, is just a human nature thing, is we have a shared desire to be heard and understood. That is something we have in common. Almost everyone has that perspective. We want to be heard and understood. So if we can make space for both of us to be heard and understood and recognize that we share that need, then we won't feel the need to shut the other person down or make them listen to us. We can listen to them and they can listen to us. Hopefully, we have a shared business goal. We want to move the business forward. Maybe we have a shared history or experience, a thing we've done together, or experiences we've had together. We can focus on the things that we share. Maybe we have a shared concern. We might have a different focus in terms of the priority of the problem. And even in that, we probably have a shared concern about what the problem is or what the final outcome could be. If we're really honest, we probably have more in common with other people than we have differences. It is true we have differences with people. We probably have more in common, though. Now, in an organizational setting, the most common similarity is probably related to some sort of business or organizational goal or purpose. That's probably true. Like most things, not universally true, just probably true. And the difference that we observe is likely not a difference in goal or purpose. It is probably a difference in a way of achieving that goal of purpose. It's often a question of how we get there rather than why we're doing what we're doing or what we need to do to get there. So it's more about the how we proceed than what we're trying to achieve or why achieving it is important. And if we draw our conversation back to the shared interest, the why or what we're doing, it can probably give us energy and focus and synergy and commitment, alignment to figure out a how that both of us can live with. And the point of this podcast episode is this. I want to draw attention to your future conversations, and honestly, I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm speaking to you, is how are we similar to this person, or what do we share with this person as we have this conversation? How can we use that similarity, that alignment in goal or purpose or objective or concern to create the energy and commitment and connection that allows us to work through the differences we have in maybe our approach or communication style or point of interest in this issue, to work through those differences to achieve our shared interest rather than to focus on the differences and blow it all up. So this week, my encouragement to you is, as you have conversations with people about how to address business interest, how to advance business projects, how to deal with customer concerns, what products to make, how to make them, all the different things that happen in business, remember to focus on the similarity you have with this person more than you focus on the difference. Yes, use the difference to leverage different viewpoints. Use the difference to understand how each of you might do it differently so that you can come up with a better, more rounded solution. That is an excellent idea. And remember to focus on the similarity more than you focus on the difference. If you can do that, you can talk like a leader. This has been the Talk Like a Leader podcast. You can listen to this show every week wherever you get your podcast. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Guy Harris, and thanks for listening.